Hello everyone, today's video is going to cover this conversion for a client that was having some difficulty getting into this tub shower space. We were going to be completely demoing everything, doing all of the reframing, surface preparation and waterproofing so that we can convert this tub shower into a low profile step shower. Alright, let's get started. If you want to jump ahead and see the full tile installation, you can go ahead and just click the link. Both videos are already available. Alright, the first step for pretty much any demolition is you want to remove all of the shower fixtures. Most of these are very easy to remove. Don't forget to close up the drain. Part of what I do specifically is I do these kinds of shower remodels where we do not affect other parts of the shower space, so I am very surgical and always cut out all of the drywall so that when we do the demolition it doesn't damage everything and there's all this work that is needed after the fact. This was a really old school build with ceramic tile right onto drywall, so the demo was extremely easy. This whole space was basically loose and there was a little bit of water damage, not too much. But yeah, I mean, we finished this up in about an hour. Very, very easy demolition. This was our first small hurdle. Normally, with this tool here, I can just go ahead and twist the drain flange right off. But I did need to go into the crawl space because that sucker was on there tight and I could not get it removed. Luckily, we got really lucky. This crawl space had about a 6-foot clearance. You can see that right here. This was copper and it was really rusted over, so we could not twist that, and I did not feel like cutting a steel tub, so we instead cut the pipe from the underside right there. Again, this is not typical. Most of the time it's really tough to get into the crawl space, but yeah, we just went ahead and cut that, and once that's over you can just go ahead and pull the tub right off. I use my suction tool here just to kind of fish it out. Pretty heavy thing. It was about 300 pounds or so, but we did manage to get it out. There really wasn't much to this demolition, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. This is me grabbing all of the needed materials. I'm going to be using Latticrete foam board. This is fully waterproof wallboard, including these really long sheets. These are 4x8 sheets. The next step is to make any adjustments that I need to all of the framing and a little bit to the plumbing. The plumber did an amazing job. This was a little bit tricky. He got in there and he changed the P-trap and fixed a couple issues. I did notice that the floor was creaking a bit, so I went ahead and added a couple 2x4s on the underside just to kind of shore that up and remove some of that movement. Again, really awesome that we had access to this crawl space. The customer also wants some grab bars, and I always try my best to be complying with ADA standards for aging in place so that it can tolerate weight. These framing adjustments is what is going to make that possible. Once I sistered a couple pieces of 2x2, I can then fish this little piece of 1/2 inch OSB. I'm using my brad nailer here to hold it in place. I will be adding screws, don't worry guys. There you go. And that's all done. Now, the customer wasn't really sure where the tile was going to end up, and I wanted to give her lots of choices, so I added big pieces. She can pretty much add it just about anywhere. Once that's done, I'm going to be using the wet shimming technique to put the walls up and make them nice and plumb. You can do this a lot of other ways. Some people like to use cardboard shims. I just really like the wet shimming thing. This is LFT thin set mortar that you see in globs right on the studs. The tolerance of the mortar is anywhere between 0 and 1/2 of an inch, which is plenty for most walls. Pretty much all framing is a bit crooked, so doing something like this ensures, look at that, perfectly level and perfectly flat. Especially if you're not a professional contractor, this is probably the way to go. If you're a DIYer, maybe haven't done this before, if you use the wet shimming technique, it is a lot easier to make sure that your walls are nice and flat. The flatter the walls, the easier the tile installation. Alright, now it's time to start building a custom niche. You can buy prefabricated niches, that's perfectly fine. I like to fit the niches to the space. Sometimes you want it smaller, sometimes you want it a little bit bigger, so I always custom build them. And this is how I do it. I install everything first, wait for the wet shimming to dry, so usually on the next day, and then I cut the piece out. Right now I'm just going to be cutting a couple slivers. I did already do all the framing adjustments beforehand, and I'm just going ahead and making sure that it fishes in there correctly. I put a piece on the back of redwood float strips so that I get slight pitch on the bottom. Don't forget to check your levels and make sure that this guy doesn't have some weird pitch, especially going inward. You really don't want water pooling. Now I'm just adding slivers of the foam board so that I can get full coverage. In addition to the niche, this build also has a tiled window with this really beautiful stained glass look here, so we're going ahead and adding some slivers in there. Really easy to do with this foam board. Alright, let's move on to the shower pan. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and puncture all of the waterproofing. Look at that. Amazing. No, I'm just kidding. This is not the waterproofing. I am only building the shape of this custom shower pan. The waterproofing comes after, so it does not really matter whether I'm going to be puncturing this membrane or anything like that. This is just a way to keep the moisture from absorbing too quickly into the subfloor. That's what this tar paper is for. Look at that. One more time, puncturing that. It doesn't matter. No problem. Then I'm adding diamond lath wire. The pieces you see around the drain, I adjusted the height a little bit. Those are slivers of the foam board that I use to keep the height the same throughout the process of me putting concrete over it. Attached the integrated flange drain and then poured dry pack concrete. Now I am just shaping the pitch to make sure that the water runs correctly into the drain. This is probably one of the few things that I do that's sort of old school. It's a lot slower than just putting a prefabricated pan, but I really like the idea of being able to build a custom pitch depending on the tile. Alright, now that the entire shower space is shaped, it's time to move on to the crucial step of doing all of the waterproofing. I'm going to be using this Hydroban adhesive and sealant to seal any area that has been punctured, or if there's any change of plane or anything like that. I'm going to be using a combination of sealant just like this, as well as sheet membrane. Once you get nice globs on there, you want to go ahead and flatten everything out and shape it. I have this special tool for corners. It helps so that you get nice coverage. Check that out. Yeah, so you can use the sealant for everything. This, by the way, is not sealant. This is thin set mortar. I did wait until the following day to go ahead and patch things up. This is a fast setting mortar, so I will be adding sealant on top of this. Just for extra assurance that everything's going to stay waterproof for a long time, I do like to use the banding in the corners. Again, you can use a sealant, but I really like these sheet banding membranes because they are a lot tougher. So if the house moves a lot, especially on this exterior wall, I feel very confident that the sheet membrane is going to hold up just fine for a long, long time. All of these membranes are adhered with thin set mortar, modified thin set mortar. Once those small patches dry up, I go ahead and add a little bit of sealant on not only the areas that I patched up, but also any screw holes and things like that. Alright, it's time to move on to the niche. Right now I am going to be adding this sheet of foam board. You can see that I back butter it, put a 1/4 inch trowel, and then stick the piece back on there. That's the same piece that I cut out, by the way. It fits really well. Now I'm just making sure that it is compressed correctly. Then I am going to be doing something a little bit different this time. I am going to be adding the sheet membrane as a single piece and sort of wrapping it just like a present. I actually saw this on another YouTube video from this other channel, and I thought it was an awesome idea and figured I would try it. Because I had to cut some of the areas, you can see that I do add sealant on the inside corners. I needed to make a couple sliver cuts in order to fold the sheet. I wanted to add this other detail as a bonus tip. I use mineral spirits to clean all of my tools. This adhesive does not come off easily once it dries. If you saturate a paper towel and use that to sort of scrape off the surface with mineral spirits, it's really great to keep all of your tools nice and clean. Just a pro tip, something that saved me a lot of money on tools. Alright, let's move on to the most crucial waterproofing step for any shower pan. I'm going to be adding a sheet membrane to the concrete layer that I have here. This is the real waterproofing. This is the crucial thing. There's the stopper. I like to add a little bit of water before I start putting in the sheet so that by the end of the day I can make sure that that stopper is working. So the water sort of does a test of that particular drain plug. I do like to pre-cut the roll. Then I add a 3/8 inch notch trowel on the inside, and I like to wrap the sheet over the curb so that that crucial area is one continuous sheet. You don't have to do this, but I do find that this extra step does save me a bit of time. Once that is all complete, I then use the scraper here to go ahead and push and collapse all the ridges and get all that extra mortar out. The inside collar of this integrated flange drain is probably the trickiest part. You want to make sure to get all that mortar out, because otherwise the rest of the drain just doesn't fit in there and it's too high. So make sure you get all the mortar out. For the inside corners, make sure that you have these corner pieces, because otherwise the waterproofing will not work and your flood test will fail. Then of course you add the banding on every other change of plane. So again, corner pieces and banding on top of the sheet membrane on the floor, and that's it. Just like that, we are done with all the waterproofing, all the surface prep. There's only one thing left. I never continue with the tile installation until I get the flood test to pass. So it's just a matter of filling the shower pan up to the threshold of the step, or as high as you can get it. Then you want to put some marks at that threshold. And here's the most important thing, the reason why most contractors skip this or want to skip this, you have to let it sit for 48 hours. So I always time my shower pan flood test for the weekend, and we just leave it over the weekend. Alright, 48 hours later, let's see how we did. So the goal with these tests is that the line should match the line of water, which it does, which means that this test passed. There you go, right where we left it. This is why you want to put the marks, so that you can keep an eye on it. And that's it, flood test passed. Now of course you want to open it. This is another kind of test. It will show you how well this shower pan is going to drain. It took me about 3 minutes to fill it, and all the water's gone in about 15 seconds. So that tells me that the pitch is excellent. All done. And everything is now ready for tile. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to click the link below or link in bio to see part 2 of installation with this beautiful large format tile.